Hello and welcome back. In this video we're going to see on how to get one individual product, and we're going to use the specification to do that, and after that we will take a brief explanation on what's going on before we use the debugger, and we use the debugger in the next video to see what is going on step by step. And not only that, you can also use the debugger to check if you are getting the undesired behavior, and you can see where your code breaks. Enough of talking. And as we are going to be using these for getting one individual product, we need to add these as a criteria to base on where we're going to get the product. And as we were using the these product with types and bland specification, we're only using this constructor with no parameters. And when you take a closer look into the base specification, you can see that we're having these with no parameters like the one that we used, and the products with types and the specification for the rest of the product, and there will be this one for now adding the criteria. And in that case, you need to generate the constructor that contains all this behavior. And inside these products with types and bland specification, I'm going to use the quick fix in here, and I'm going to press Ctrl dot, and I'm going to generate these with a criteria. And again, as we are going to be pressing this with the actual data, we don't need to have this as this expression, and again we don't need to use this as a criteria like this one. Instead, we are going to replace this with the actual criteria that we need to base on. We are going to be saying that int id, and the id, that is the one that we are going to be getting from the controller. And in this case, we're going to set the criteria. I'm going to say that the x goes to x dot id, that will be equal to the id that we're going to be getting from the controller, like this one. And after setting this, we're going to also add the include, and I'm going to say add include, or we can go ahead and copy these. There's no need to retype these, as we're having them there, we can reuse them here. And you have to reformat so as to be able to make your code look clean. Alright, and once we are done with this, you can go back into the controller and use this behavior. Inside the product controller, we're going to see on where we are getting the individual product, and of course it's here. And in here we need to create the instance of products with bland specification. I'm going to say var spec, this will be equal to new products with types here. And in this case, as we're going to be now needing to return one individual product, we need to pass in the id that we're going to be getting from the parameter, and we end this statement. And after getting this, as we're going to be getting now the entity, we are going to say get entity with spec, and in this case we're going to pass in now the specification that we the instance that we created above. And in this case, whenever we set this id, it is going to be hitting this endpoint, because we have this as an input parameter. And before we explain what's going on in the theoretical way, I'm going to first test if this is working. I'm going to start my server again and see if this is working. So I'm going to use this .NET watch LAN and wait. Alright, and once the server is now started, we're going to go back into the postman, and we're going to get the individual product, and we see if now we're getting the success. So I'm going to get the product as one individual product, and I'm going to go ahead and send this request, and you can see that we're getting now the product with types and bland. Alright, and as now we're getting the success, I'm going to take a bit of demonstration on what's going on here. First of all, whenever we're going to set this id here, it is going to go into this product with types and bland specification, and it is going to set it here. And this, as we are having this base specification here, I'm going to go into the base specification, we're saying that whenever we are having this criteria, we're going to be using this criteria. And for the individual product, of course, we have this criteria. And not only that we have the criteria, also we have the includes. And the way this work, for example, in the specification evaluator, we're going to see if now we're having this criteria. If we're having this criteria, as we are also receiving these, for example, in the I generic repository, we're receiving this as I queryable, and that's where we use this get query. So let's go into the I generic repository and I'll show you what I mean and this into the implementation class, of course. And you can see that whenever we are going to use this get query, we're going to use this context as we are able to access into this generic repository implementer class. And as we are going to be returning the iQueryable from this apply specification method, you can see that we are going to use this specification evaluator, and you are going to use this get query. And inside this implementation class for the generic repository, we're having this context, and you're going to set the entity here, and we need to return this as an iQueryable. And in that case, whenever we're in the specification evaluator, we're going to be getting this query, and we see what is in there. And whenever we see that inside our query we have the criteria, we're going to use this where, as this is now the language that our DB will understand, and it is going to apply the query that we have there. And after checking if now we have the criteria, it is going to check if we have also the includes, and the include may be 1, 2, 3 or 5 or more includes, and that's the reason why we're going to be using the aggregate. And after doing this, it's going to return the query, and then it will go to the database, and it is going to get you the data as expected. And briefly, in theory, that's how now it's working, and it is going to be checking everything before returning the desired output. And this is the benefit of the specification pattern. You specify what you want, and as you set up these classes and these implementation classes and evaluators, they're going to do the job for you. And I know when you first approach this topic, it's somehow very confusing, but whenever you start using it, you will understand how it works. And in the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to use the debugger to see exactly what's going on when you are going to initialize this. So see you there, and stay cool.